Dang. Everything is really more beautiful with shaders on. But you know what it's not more beautifuler than? It's not more beautifuler than you. Welcome back to another Create-O-Holics episode. In the last one, we made this little fisher's hut on the edge of this area here where we're going to be building our massive city in the coming episodes. And I am so excited for this community project. We haven't made a ton of progress up to date on this area. We obviously have the train track coming through here where we're going to, at some point, be building like a main station in this area. But I got the ground rolling, and I hopefully have convinced other people on the Create-O-Holics server to at least I incentivize them to maybe start working on this place. We should see a lot of good content coming hopefully pretty soon, and maybe even in this episode. But as I mentioned in the end of the last episode, I want to focus on making this monstrosity look just a little bit better. You all know that I am a engineer, whatever, the making of this thing by heart, but I do want to appreciate making things look good and making like just builds look good in general. And even though we're using some ugly blocks like granite and stuff, I think it's looking pretty good so far, and I want to move this over to the other side of the river here, where we can maybe like build a bridge and have like a cool walkway and some more homely houses that are hiding this just horrible monstrosity, but still some homely houses, and maybe even just a milkshake shop that as we enter in here, it's a little bit dark and dingy, but we can fix up the interior so that we can get some milkshakes and stuff. But I am really excited about building this today. We are going to do it in a similar style to everything else with the, you know, the granite and then the limestone and all that stuff. And I wanted to do something very, very different. I wanted to try to draw out like a picture vibe of what we're going to do here. Not well, but in just like MS Paint type vibes. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this and then bring it into MS Paint so that we can go through kind of my thought process and what I expect this to look like once we're done. All right, I'm using the essentials drawing thing because it's actually not horrible, and hopefully you can get kind of the idea of what I'm going for. So we're going to do a bunch of townhouses here. I'm switching between different colors, and we're not going to go exactly the same color section as here because that will get pretty monotonous along the way. But I'm thinking we do the same red that we have over in this area, like the same granite, copper, everything. And then we have hints of limestone that you could see over there. And then we mostly use different colored terracottas and stuff for the background. Part of my inspiration for this is my vanilla playthrough that I honestly haven't posted a video in a little bit at a time, but I am making one, so that's why I'm kind of thinking of this. But if we kind of copy this over, and I don't have a good way to copy and paste this, but if we copy this over here, and then we add in a pathway that like winds around here, and we have it like kind of a nature walk. We make that mud. Then we can get in some trees going around. These are going to be the custom ones, of course. And you could tell I'm very good at art. But you kind of get the gist. So we're going to have pathways walking around, some cute little houses, townhouses just for people to live. And I'm going to save that for the thumbnail. That ain't making the thumbnail, dog. Over in the creative world, I've drawn that up here with just a bunch of wool for a bunch of different like colors and things. So we're gonna have like a doorway here. Windows are outlined in yellow, and then we got some like beams and stuff here. I'm thinking actually we probably want to bring this out by one, but we can decide that once we get into some of the finer details. Now I'm thinking we get in a couple other outlines of things, and then we can copy these around and change up the colors once we get to that stage. So let's get to outlining. And this process actually took so long because I decided I want to outline most of the houses here, which was probably a little bit stupid. I also started outlining the paths, a little cliff outcropping, I don't know what you call it. And yeah, as you can see, all of the houses here. This one was a curved custom one that I think is going to turn out really, really nice once we get everything in. And then I just had to perfect it, add a couple more little support beams, roofs, a little more housing, and then we're good. Holy smokes, I have made so much work for myself. We officially have all the houses in here, at least the outer structures of them all, and I gave myself so many to do, including this like fully circular kind of bay windowed one that's gonna look so cool once we get that done. But yeah, this is going to be so much work. I'm hoping that once I get a rhythm, once I get a vibe, once I get a style, I'll be good to go. But just building the outlines of these has taken, what, an hour and a half? So we're in for the long haul here, but I think it's gonna look really good. Let me walk through what I've done. So you saw that I built this one right in front of the milkshake farm, factory, whatever thing, and that's gonna be probably the only one with a real interior. All the other ones are just gonna be facades. That's gonna make my life really, really easy. And you also saw that I was putting in the pathway here. I was doing it with the brown wool because I suspect we're going to do something with packed mud or something instead of the sandstone that we have over here. We also have a bridge going across because otherwise, I mean, I don't know how we're getting across this river. I did a little bit of terraforming with some dirty wool. And then, yeah, we're over to here where this just tapers off for now. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I may throw in some custom trees along here. It depends on the vibe. So we'll get that once all the details of the buildings and pathways are in. And then probably my favorite part, and the part I didn't know about or tell you about because I didn't know about it, this pathway up here, I'm in the wall. This pathway up here that leads to a couple of smaller houses up top here. So I was running into an issue where for these houses, I can kind of make it so that they go straight into the wall here and they look pretty okay from afar. The issue came up with these sorts of houses over here because I would have needed to go double the distance as these here, which were already looking pretty long. So I was like, I wonder if I can do like the mumbo jumbo style where we had houses below and then another level where houses were above. And I think that's going to work really, really well. I made a little pathway alleyway thing up here. This is going to be a really dingy alleyway, I hope, and it should look really, really good. And then we have the white wool as like a little balcony thing, and then a couple of houses up here just to fit the vibe, and I think it's gonna look really, really good. Now it comes time to getting in all of the blocks. So I'm gonna do limestone on most of these houses as the main block there, but I am gonna mix it up. I need to make a couple color palettes so that we know what looks good, what matches, and what fits the rest of the vibe. I'm thinking we have some green ones, some limestone ones, and some granite ones, with the outer bits being wood, maybe? I'm not too sure yet. We'll see, and I guess just play it by ear. But let me make some color palettes and let's get started with actually decorating this. A little extra info into my building process. I have never done this amount of outlining before in my life. Usually I do like a couple buildings just to get a vibe and shape of what I want, and then I just start building with details, with everything built in, because I kind of need to see the details before I get a general vibe. But I'm switching it up here. This is intended to be a really nice backdrop to the rest of the area and the rest of the town and city. And I think having the big picture makes my job easier when decorating so that I don't over design. I think I would run into that here if I were to do every little detail that I have here over there. I think we would run into a ton of big issues, and I actually forgot about the window style that I'm totally going to steal from right here, where we have the scaffolding and what are these called? Exposed copper grates. We are using that like crazy in here, so be prepared. These are going to be the first drafts of the color palette, and I may show you why color palette is so important, because if you don't get the same hue, tone, and like general vibe of color, it will look so off. You see that, like, I've already obviously proven the granite and limestone one with all of these builds. I think they all look really good, but especially kind of these I really like more than the ones with the green, and that's because the green has a different hue and color to the rest of the limestone builds. But I'll potentially show that more off. Maybe if I get something wrong, I can let you know. But I'm thinking let's get started with this one with our basic color palette, because then we can get our bearings and get to making a little bit better builds in the future. Here we go. I actually have a really good example of why color palette is bad. So for some reason I chose acacia for this instead of the tried and true and already proven jungle and palm colors. And I also did birch. And you can see right now, I've textured the bottom slightly, haven't textured the top. Color is kind of the main thing that we're working with right now, and it looks really bad. And this is the same build with jungle. You can tell kind of the main difference is that it just feels greener, and it feels like it blends in better. I'm still not completely sold on having the jungle on all of the borders, so that may get tweaked relatively soon, but for now we're keeping it. And with details in, I think this actually turned out really well. So now that we have a good first version and like a good thing to build off of, I think let's get in a lot of the base details for all of these houses at the same time just to get the colors and stuff working, and then I'll come back to doing all of the details at once, because my guess is that I can copy and paste a lot of the window types and all the decorations over and it'll just work. And I know I said I didn't want to over decorate it by doing all the stuff that I did over here, which is also why I'm going to do all of the larger strokes first and then come back with details, because I suspect this is going to be over detailed. And here we have it, the larger brush strokes in now with all the colors, all the different building types. And I think this is actually going to work really, really well. Now I'm going to get in the slightly smaller brush strokes, which is going to be not all of the details, but things like gradients and different shading. These jungle fences, I think at the top are good, and then any supports and stuff that we need for like the struts, I think we add in now, and maybe also the window sills. Basically everything except for the pots and these like little chain bit thingies that are everywhere for whatever reason. I think we add in all of those things, and then we'll get to the actual window details, because those I suspect I'm just going to copy and paste over, because that should be pretty easy to do. We have some pretty major updates since last time. I have all of the kind of slightly finer details in now. I've changed up the roof colors of some of these white ones because they were a little bit too orange in my opinion. And we have pretty much everything in now except for the fine details and the walkways, pathways, and like wall things that we're going to have up here. I'm not sure what we're doing with that just yet, so I'm leaving it for now. Another major update is behind the windows here. I have changed it up so that it's a little bit warmer of a glow, and you can see what I'm doing behind here. We have honey blocks in the back with glowstone underneath, and we still have those exposed copper grates, or whatever copper grates I used for the build in a certain location. I feel like some are slightly different, but maybe not. So we're having honey behind there and lights going up, because honey is technically a transparent block while these exposed copper grates are not. Ooh, I should have been smarter about this. I can just do this. And you can see the glow that it adds to the buildings at nighttime. And I've also added in just some lights at the front of each of the doorways, because I do think that adds quite a bit. But now it's time to get in the finer details, the pathways, any of the trees, any foliage, and anything interesting on these pathways, because right now it's going to be pretty barren, at least from what I can guess. So we'll probably spruce those things up, but I think we're ready to get back into survival and start resource gathering, and you'll see the final result once we build it in the world. Back over on the survival server where we have everything up and running, I already have a material checklist of all the things that we need to get, and boy is a lot of them. Holy cow, we have, I think, 10 or so pages, so halfway already resource gathered over in our main storage system, but we still have a ton to go, and honestly a ton to tear down. I need to level out this area, kind of mostly just this little thingy here, and then a big old area here, and get rid of all these trees and such. But then we should be good to go. So let's first get into a little bit of resource gathering. I don't know if it'll be a time lapse, and maybe I'll make something funny enough to include it, but otherwise you'll see me in 4 milliseconds. All right, resource gathering, go. To start, we needed to gather a bunch of mangrove logs, but in order to get all those logs, the mangrove swamp was 4,000 blocks away, so I kind of gave up and was just like, I need an elytra instead of this jetpack. Let me go to the end where I can hopefully find an elytra. After wandering there for like probably 45 minutes, we found our end city with the ship. We got under there and got our elytra. And then I learned something new that you could do with elytras and the cosmetic mod. Oh my god, I was not going to include this in the video. I can use my jetpack and my elytra at the same time. Am I even going the right way? I am. Let's see how fast this is. I'm going so fast. You can look up at the top right and see stuff that's going on. Uh-oh. Back tank out. Time to use rockets. That's such a cheat. I can't believe I haven't gotten an elytra and a jetpack earlier. Well, that's the new travel method. I think in the next mod pack, Create-O-Holics season, we are going to remove the cosmetics things, because I think they're a little bit too OP. I hate to say it. I feel like having infinite rocket jetpacks, at least for 35 minutes straight, might be a little bit too speedy. I might as well take these. That would have made my job way easier. Oh, don't mind if I do. If I found this? Bro, we're right here. It probably took me 30 minutes to travel around in this loop. I was really doing it not efficiently. All right, back to resource gathering. Item gathering all done. We have everything that we need set up now. Now we get to AFK and let the schematic build itself. Oh. Huh. This is a pretty fine viewing angle, but I'm still gonna go into fly cam. We're gonna let the schematic build itself. I still have to remove some of the stuff, but I suppose let's just get into a time lapse. Maybe a cinematic. We'll see what I do in editing. Take it away, me. Hi, me. Thank you so much. This isn't going to be as entertaining as a normal replay mod because replay mod keeps breaking. I think it's something to do with schematics, but we are getting in the build here, and it's pretty much the exact same town that you saw before with some of those pathways in now. And now it's time to get into detailing. The houses are in, and boy, do they look so good. Except for all the parts that don't look good. Like, there's no detail. I still have little bits in the road. That's not helpful. And more importantly, they just kind of feel plunked into the walls and are missing spots, like here, that I need to terraform still and get working, but we'll do all of that in a second. I think the general vibe of this thing is so nice, and I don't know what is wrong here, but we're missing some doors. There we go, those are fixed. This thing looks so nice. Let's throw on some shaders and see what it looks like at nighttime, and then we can get in kind of the details, everything to tie this build together to make it actually look like a row of houses instead of just some janky stuff. Oh, as the sun is setting and my game is lagging like crazy, this is what it's looking like so far, and I am actually really pleased with how this is looking. The glowing windows are a huge touch, and they add so much to this build. I'm so glad that I actually did it. But enough gushing about my building expertise. We gotta make this place beautiful, and I think this is gonna start with removing probably all of this dirt, because gross. Replacing it with stone, same with this diorite and whatever this block is, potato sick. Getting rid of that. Maybe even getting rid of the deep slate and weathered limestone. Like anything that isn't stone, we're getting rid of. We want this to be pretty and not ugly. And right now it's ugly. With our background cleared up a little bit, I'm thinking we get to some trees. And instead of just doing a time lapse, let me spin around quickly and we can get to... There we go, we have our trees all in and looking beautiful. And I'm gonna be honest, this would have taken me a lot of time if I didn't just copy and paste in Creative and use a schematic. But we can pretend just between the two of us that I did build all of these by hand and it took 15 hours. Anyway, this is a huge upgrade. You could just see the vibes that we're going with already being built in here, and it's looking so good. The next step is getting in a ton of rocks, big and small, and boulder sized and not boulder sized, and this tree is on fire, that's not good. And I kind of want to copy the rocks from way over here, where we have a bunch of different geode flavors and just normal little pebbly rocks up to big rocks and all those types of things. And I'm thinking we just scatter them around over on this area just to make it a little bit more lively. And that's exactly what I did. I got work on just normal boulders at the start, using a lot of tuff, a lot of buttons, and a lot of just stairs and slabs. And then I got working on a massive boulder that you see here just to kind of give you some scale. I used tuff as kind of the lower base, and then I started mossing up the whole place just to give it some green so that it meshes with the trees. We then got work on, of course, some amethyst geodes, and then we're done. And that, at least in my opinion, has upgraded this area so much. We have a bunch of little amethyst geodes, bunch of little amethyst clusters, some rocks that, as I mentioned in the little thing there, we put moss over to give it a little bit of greenery in conjunction with those trees. Why am I going so fast? And then something I didn't see, we added some up on the stairs, some moss up there, and a massive geode up at the top of the stairs that I think ties a lot of the upper bits together. I also mossed like crazy up here. This was a comment suggestion that I really liked. But we have a massive geode there that kind of brings it together. And this pathway's looking good. The only issue is right now it just ends to nothing. And we don't have a bridge across, and there's no real way to get there. Which means we need a bridge. And I'm gonna be honest, bridges are not my specialty. I am pretty bad at them. You may have seen my bridge way over yonder that wasn't really in theme to the rest of the builds. It looks cool, but it took a very long time to make, and I suspect the same is gonna happen here. But I'm thinking of a curved kind of diagonal bridge that, let me just get a little view here that goes a little bit up, back down, and then connects up with that land over there. And it should hopefully loop around this way, and then we can have it go all the way along here and eventually connect up with our main pathway that we will bring over here. I'm probably gonna branch it off right there and just have it go straight over there, which I think will turn out really, why can't I say really nicely? So I think that'll be the plan. Let's get to the second time lapse of the day where we build in this bridge, and hopefully it looks good. Building in the bridge here, and of course we're starting off with mud as kind of the floor level, with a lot of the spruce on the underlaying bits, with jungle on the top as kind of the accent. We are adding a roof to this thing and a bunch of lights, and then we're getting to the structural supports, because I kind of just built this in the middle of nowhere, so we need some terraforming just to get the bridge structurally sound so it's being held up by something. This actually didn't take too long, and I think it turned out pretty nice. We'll go over a more in-depth walkthrough once this time-lapse is done, but then we got started on the pathway itself. This was a little bit more difficult than I kind of expected, because in the middle I need to combine mud and sand, which is, they don't really go well together. So I tried my best. I think it turned out pretty well. I had a very gradual gradient that led through the whole thing, and then we're done. Back now in the Create-O-Holics world, and we are pretty much done here with the entire build. We still need our grass to grow in, but that'll just take a little bit of time, and otherwise we are pretty much good. This thing turned out so nice. We have a beautiful pathway that I'll get into later, a sweet bridge going into our little town of row houses on the water. But let's go over the pathway and the bridge first. So as I mentioned in the time lapse, I needed to combine this sandstone, this sand with mud, and I did so pretty much here. And I think the gradient is good enough. It's really hard to combine two colors that don't really match, but I think I did an okay job. I think it works. And then we head over to the mud area and onto the bridge itself. As I mentioned, we do have, and this is already kind of grown out with all the grass, we do have little grass and dirty supports that hold up the bridge on either side, which I'm very pleased with. I feel like this should have been switched over to grass, but I guess it didn't. And then of course I needed to terraform that a little bit just to make it all look good. But then we have the bridge. This thing took me so long. I think it took me 2 or 3 attempts in total of like completed building a bridge and then scrapping it and then doing that over and over again. But I think it turned out really well. It is so hard to make a bridge that is diagonal and has a height curve to make it look symmetrical. I spent so long trying to do this, and it is symmetrical, but like in a really weird way. I have copied it in half this way and then shifted it slightly so that it curves this way, goes into the middle, and then curves that way. So if you rotate this half of the bridge 180 degrees, it will start going this way and match up with this path, which is how I got it to look symmetrical, and it was so painful to try to figure that out. But now I know how to do it, so I might be able to do this quicker in the future. It also took a very long time to make the bridge look structurally sound. I went through a couple of different options of like doing one of these, but that made the bridge super thick, and it didn't look good, and yeah, it was a mess, but we got there in the end, and I actually still need to put in flowers into these flower pots. And we're just gonna do one of the 3 common ones here. There we go. Adding a little bit of color to the build. We have our lanterns and stuff for light, and then we're back into the place that you've already seen a billion times. But that is now step 1 of the entire process. I forgot to tell you to subscribe, so make sure you do that. In the next episode, we may go to the massive tower that we need to set up there, or potentially to the guy's little shack where we have our dyes and flower farm. Only time will tell. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this build as much as I did, because this turned out so good. I love the custom trees. I love everything about it. We really need to get custom trees in the rest of this area just so that it finally looks perfect. But until I force myself to do that, that'll be it for this episode of Create-O-Holics. So I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, please subscribe, and watch all of my other videos. And I will see you in the next video.